company. And the definitions that we have, I put them on the piece of paper because I added one. I wanted you to have space to take notes about it. So the first one is corporate social responsibility. And that is defined as a company's sense of responsibility toward the community and environment, both ecological and social, in which it operates. So that's a company's sense of responsibility toward the community and environment, both ecological and social, in which it operates. Okay, and innovation is the process of translating an idea or intention into a good or service that creates value or for which customers will pay. The process of translating an idea or invention into a good or service that creates value or for which customers will pay. Okay, and for carbon footprint, that is the total greenhouse gas emissions produced by an individual, an event, a product, or an organization, and is generally expressed in tons of carbon dioxide.
So there is a measurement for carbon footprint.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I'm just going to go over a real quick real-life illustration, big picture illustration, and then we'll get on to outlining the questions. So if you want, you can take some notes on the back of that page, or you can just listen and try to absorb. So for the real-life situation, we see a real isolation between the customers and manufacturers that Anna is addressing. So on line 85, she talks about they need a better cultural understanding of their customers. So in the real-life situation, this would be if some company got a separation between the demands of their customers and the objectives of the company. So for example, if a clothing company is trying to design something that appeals to a certain demographic of people, they need to have a connection to that culture in order to know what is appealing to that culture. A second goal of Anna is saving energy and unifying the goal of the business to be focused on saving energy. So she really talks about this on line 91 when she's talking about the ultimate aim of the ball bearing. But for a real-life example, this could be like an electric car company that is trying to reduce fossil fuels. And so as part of their organization and their structure, they should also be looking at reducing fossil fuels in their transportation costs, in fueling their factory. So just trying to unify that business idea and objective is another thing that Anna is trying to do. So in the big picture of this entire case study, we see a real divergence from Valdemar's perspective about research and green technology. So on line 40, it talks about him not being, or of him delaying these updates that need to take place, and not responding to pressure groups on line 41. So this is a clear indication that Anna wants to make a difference, and her approach is to address these this social responsibility in green technology immediately, as well as increasing its spending on research and development. And also, it represents a change in business practices. Anna is really focused on the idea of globalization, which is a much newer principle. And we see on line 130 that Valdemar is really interested in staying in Denmark and being loyal to his traditional customers. But we see that Anna is advocating for an increase in cultural diversity and making sure that their workforce, as well as their location, is that it expands to include a more global perspective. So it shows a shift in the focus of the business, and Anna is planning more for the future, and Valdemar is kind of stuck in the traditional practices of the business. So now we're ready to outline the questions. I've left you some space there.
Can I say
Under the
one thing
questions.
before you keep going
Yeah.
on that? You know, Ben has really hit it right here, you guys, and something that might be a good idea that we definitely need to go and revisit once we get through the interpretation of everybody's paragraphs. What Royal Danish Bearings is a true reflection of what has happened in the business world. A generational gap, we have different visions, just like you said, Anna, looking ahead to the future and trying to tie everybody into an energy efficient from end product to manufacturing process. Now, do you think that this is a growing pain that a lot of businesses have undergone?
Yeah.
It might not be a bad idea to have a couple of examples of businesses that have undergone similar growing pains up your sleeve, so that you could say, well, for instance, you know, it has been documented that Corporation XYZ has also undergone similar growing pains, because this is not a new concept that we're having management basically conflicts with the direction of the company. So you really hit it on the head here that she is really looking at a shift for the future. Good job.
Okay, so that leads nicely into question 1, where we're distinguishing between Valdemar and Anna's views on their workforce. So with Anna, we have the new principle of globalization. So she's advocating for 2 main things. First is an increase in the cultural diversity of the or an understanding of the cultural principles of their customers. So that would include an increase in the number of international workers in order to gain that understanding. And then with Valdemar, we have him holding on to the traditional workforce. So he feels he has to maintain his social contract with his existing workforce. And then going along with this, he feels he needs to provide work in Denmark and Swedish and German governments because of the contracts they have and the way that the company has influenced or been influential in those governments.
Do you think that there's a solution in what he could offer, they could offer their workforce to overcome some of his hesitations? I mean, he's really focused on maintaining everything for his workforce, giving them what they've had, the small business buy-in. Is there a proposition for something else that he could do to get employee buy-in, so that he doesn't feel like he's just taking this big leap in management style?
You mean if they were to increase their international workers?
Or what if they were to educate their workers, or, you know, get them some further education, shift the type of work that they're doing so that they could still feel that loyalty towards the business?
But still have the globalization. Yeah.
And there might be something that we keep thinking about.
Okay, the second question asks us to analyze Anna's focus on green technologies and corporate social responsibility. So it's just going to be looking at some of the positives and negatives to this strategy. So first of all, it's important to note that it comes from international experience, and it's a fairly new business trend. So some of the benefits, the first one being that it's good for the environment and for society in general. But then benefits for the business itself is that it can increase the public image of the business and also gain the government's support. And then we also see it can gain respect from buyers, and it can also set an example in its field. So possibly starting a new movement in the ball bearing industry toward an increase in social responsibility.
Kind of a first mover towards that.
And that's another thing, they don't want to be caught in a situation where someone else moves first and then they have to make all these changes immediately to try to catch up.
You should write down the term first mover advantage. We've seen that in a lot of exam questions and answers. First mover advantage.
Well, isn't that what Henrik did when he founded it, the company?
Right. Did they use the term there?
No, it's not used there.
Talked about it, but we didn't use the term.
No.
Yeah.
I did that paragraph. Hopefully it's not in there.
Okay, now some of the drawbacks.
Yep.
it's expensive. They'll have to invest in new technology and equipment. And in addition to that, they also have to cover research and development costs that Valdemar has been putting off. So in order to make this leap forward, they're going to have to invest a lot of money into new equipment and technology. And then you also have that it can be controversial because not everyone can agree on whether or not these environmental concerns really need to be addressed and what the best way to address them is. There can also be a conflict between customers and the business as the price of some products may have to go up due to this new research that has to be done. Okay, and then finally, we're going to answer to what extent is RDB currently fulfilling the ultimate aim of innovation, as described by Anna Holstein. So this claim, or this quote, comes from line 91, when she talks about the ultimate aim of innovation in the ball bearing industry is to save energy, which is fundamentally what ball bearings do by reducing friction. So this question is just asking, is Royal Danish Bearings meeting this goal of reducing energy for the customers? So we can say, to some extent, it is. And we can look at the principle of ball bearings and reducing friction in machinery. So for all of their customers who are using them, they are saving energy, because if they didn't have ball bearings, they would be using a lot more energy due to friction. But then we can also say that there are many ways that it can be improved and can meet this description better. So the first one being green technology, and we see that by investing in green technology, they can reduce the factory's dependence on energy, and so hopefully rely less on energy to produce the ball bearings. And then a second point is with new research and development, they can come up with an even more efficient ball bearing, which can further reduce friction. So with new technology and new research, they can also pass some of that advantage onto their customers and allow them to save energy as well.
You know, in regards to this question, almost every past exam that I've looked at has had a question somewhere in there about vision statement, mission statement, objective, and strategy. This line right here could easily lead into a question about write a new vision statement, interpret the mission statement, the ultimate aim of innovation. So this right here is a perfect example, and you might put a star to go back and revisit in Unit 1 the difference between a vision, mission statement, and then a strategy and an objective. What do you think that would be if we were to look at the ultimate aim of innovation in the ball bearing industry is to save energy?
Wait,
That's
mission.
a vision.
Vision.
More of a vision. Remember, vision is kind of the big pick.
Do you think she means when she says it? Do you think she means in the actual production or the product itself?
And that's exactly what he's saying.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that
'Cause it could go either way, I think.
And on, quite frankly, with corporate social responsibility, I think that you're going to have more stakeholders holding businesses responsible for making sure that they are meeting this on both levels, in product and production.
I think personally that would go more with production than product, because you can't really make a ball bearing different.
Right.
It's a bunch of balls in a thing that spin around and
But
reduce
doing the same
friction.
thing.
You can't make that different
Right.
unless it's made out of a different material. So I think that definitely goes more to production process and how they do it in reducing
So like
energy.
saving energy by creating and not so much what they do itself.
Yeah,
Right.
that
I mean, you
makes
could-
more sense.
Well, if they were lighter or smaller,
Yeah, I mean the
There's
points you made
potential to-
definitely aren't wrong. That's
Yeah.
not what I'm saying. I'm just saying like it seems like it could go both ways, like either or in production or the product itself.
But I think, like, if you're talking about making them lighter, making them smaller, you also have to change what they go in.
Right.
So there's also another change and shift in the industry that way too.
Which
Until
they're not
that
responsible for.
until that technology gets there, you can't make the product something like that different.
You know, and I could easily see them asking for a payback period or an ARR on the shift to more of a green operation. And keep in mind, they would have to invest to change some of their production facility up front. But really, as we talk about this, you would have to look at the return for the future. Because that's how they're going to reduce their overhead to cut their costs and to be, you know, maintain competitiveness. I could see them, like I said yesterday, I could easily see IB giving you supplementary information, giving, you know, a proposal for one of these new plants.
So do you think, this seems like a pretty accurate question, something that we could definitely get. If we took the side of production and say how, you know, because the whole thing's talking about going green and that whole concept. So if we took it towards the production level, would that be acceptable as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And just like these guys are saying, there's probably more of a play on that with a little bit of understanding about ball bearings. Good. Great job. All right, let's give Ben